It literally melted. I did not like this book, you all, but I didn't care that much, so I was kind of like, okay. Least favorite male main characters I've read in a romance book in a long time. I don't know what the deal is. Like, I don't know if it's me. I don't know if it's the books. Here's a problem. Oh, we solved it. Here's another problem. Oh, we solved it. And I was like, what is happening in this book? Hello everyone and welcome or welcome back. Welcome to another video. Today we are doing my June reading wrap up. All the books that I read in June. I had a pretty good month. I got back up to almost double digits. I ended up reading 9 books and then DNFing 1. I had a 5-star. I read 3 romances, 3 mysteries, and 4 fantasies. So let's get right on into the books. Okay, the first book that I read this month was Game, Set, Match. This was a tennis romance book that I actually bought during my spring book haul, and so I really wanted to get to this one because I was excited about it and I wanted to kind of finish out a little bit of my spring TBR before I went into a bunch of my summer books, and I did enjoy this. What I most enjoyed about this was that it was actually following 3 different girls. We kind of had our main couple, the one that's depicted on the cover, that we were following their romance, and so we had Penny, Jasmine, and Indiana, and all 3 of those girls were tennis players. Penny was kind of our main character. She has already gone pro and she had just won a really big match and was preparing for the Grand Slam in Paris. She needed a new hitting partner and her coach brings in Alex, who is a kind of bad boy tennis star, and they have a little bit of a history, and so they're having to work together. She is really annoyed by him. They have this like funny banter going on, and then we have Jasmine and Indiana who come from different backgrounds in tennis, but they're kind of on the same playing level. Jasmine has been playing her whole life. Indiana has just kind of come back into the sport. They ended up being paired as doubles partners. It was a good book. I felt like for some reason I couldn't get fully connected to the story, and so I ended up only giving this one 3 stars, but I still enjoyed it. And the next one is called Wild Card, and I actually already bought that one to read, and so I'm definitely going to continue in the series. And I think the reason why I ended up giving it 3 instead of 4 stars was just that it just wasn't anything groundbreaking or life-changing, but I still had a good time reading it. It was just simple and easy, and it wasn't super emotional or anything, but I did enjoy it being set in the tennis world. I think that was my favorite part, and I also really loved that we got kind of 3 main characters. So yes, I'm definitely going to continue. I'm definitely going to at least read Wild Card. I feel like there's going to be more after this. I would still recommend it if you like sports romances. If you like reading about tennis, I would definitely recommend this, but if you're just looking for like a cute summer romance, I feel like there are better ones. Alright, the next book I read was Look in the Mirror by Catherine Stedman, and y'all, look at this. I was reading it out by the pool, and it literally melted and half my book fell out. This is a thriller novel. Someone categorized it as a modern horror story, which I wish I had read that before I read this, but I didn't hate it. My issue with horror stories is that I feel like there's so much death for no reason. The reason is just that it's a horror story, and that's kind of how I felt about this one. So we're following 2 main characters in this one. We have Nina, who has just lost her father, and she gets a letter saying that he has a house in the British Virgin Islands that he has left to her, and she knows nothing about this. It was a separate will. Her father had never talked to her about this, and so she's like, what is going on? My father, who was like very pragmatic, has this crazy house in the British Virgin Islands. Something is weird here, and so she has to fly to this house in the Virgin Islands to check it out, see what's going on. And then we also have Maria, who is a high-profile nanny. She nannies to like really rich families. She gets a call to nanny for this family during their summer vacation. It's supposed to be for a single dad and his kids, and when she gets there, the kids and the dad aren't there yet. She waits a few days, they still haven't arrived, and the nanny company is telling her, you know what, just hang out there. If you stay until they arrive, you'll still get paid. However, there is a room in the basement that is off limits to her, and the curiosity of this room being off limits is kind of getting the better of her, and so will she or won't she go down there? It was very suspenseful, and I really wanted to know what was going on. It wasn't a super long book. It was just under 300 pages, and so the suspensefulness of it I loved because I wanted to know what was going on. We're getting all these little bits and pieces going back between these 2 women's chapters. I enjoyed that part, but I think the reasoning and like the plot twist at the end, it was like violence and death for no reason, and I don't know. I just am not that kind of reader, but if you are and you like those kind of stories, I think this is a great one because she really crafted the story well. It was almost addicting to read because you wanted to know what was going on, and I feel like there were certain things that I could guess, certain things that I couldn't. I actually really like that in the story because I feel like that's when the plot twists are really well set up. Yes, if you're someone who likes thriller books or who likes to like dip your toe into the horror genre, I would check this out. It was very suspenseful. Alright, next up I read was It Happened When Murder by Liz Lawson. This was a cross between a mystery and a romance book. So we have our two main characters who are trying to solve a murder while they're supposed to be falling in love. I did not like this book, you all, at all, and I'm really sad. I honestly don't even really know what happened for the past fourth of it because I was really skimming it. I didn't want to DNF it, but I didn't care that much, so I was kind of like, okay. I just didn't like it. So we have Harriet and Nick. Harriet has come back to her hometown in New Jersey. Stepfather gets murdered on the night of her big birthday party. The main suspect is Sarah, who is the sister of Nick, who Harriet and Nick have a history. They had like a little, I think maybe a one-night stand in high school. Biggest issue I have with this book is that the author was trying to set up enemies to lovers, but it was a little too much enemies for a reason that just didn't make sense. I did not care about the murder. I didn't care about the romance because all these two did was fight. And Nick was one of my least favorite male main characters I've read in a romance book in a long time. He was really upset with Harriet about something and he couldn't get past it. I don't know, he just wasn't a very likable main character to me. And so that got me really disconnected from the book in general. And the thing about this book was that it didn't even end in a solution. We find out who the murderer was. There was no resolution, and it was just, I don't know, it was very strange. Like, here's the very last page. It ends, this is the last sentence of the book, so there's no author's note, there's no acknowledgments, there's no nothing in the back of the book. And so I felt like I was just reading it and then it stopped and I was like, was there supposed to be more to this? Like, am I missing a few pages? I don't know. Unfortunately, really did not like this one. I don't know if I can even say give it a go because I just was not a fan. So sorry. So sorry. And then I read Night Witch. Y'all, this is my second big anticipated book of the year, maybe third, that I didn't like, and I don't know what the deal is. Like, I don't know if it's me, I don't know if it's the books, but this is the sequel to Spellcaster. This ended the series. I was actually filming a reading vlog for this because the Thorn Queen went so badly for me. I was like, you know what, I want to film another anticipated book video and it actually be a good book, and so I'm going to film it with the Night Witch. A third of the way in, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not enjoying this again, and so I scrapped that video because I didn't feel like I needed another video of anticipated books going bad. I was so excited for this book, as I was with Thorn Queen. Like, again, these were two of the ones that I was counting down the days until they came out because I loved the first installment so much. And so I'm like, am I putting too much pressure on these books? And because they're not meeting my expectations, I'm really disliking them, or are they just not great follow-ups to the story? I don't know. The thing with this one is that it just was missing all the things that I loved from the Spellcaster book. I loved the romance aspect of the first one because there was so much tension, there was so much build-up, they had great chemistry, you were like waiting for them to be together but they weren't yet, and there was like all this tension building up. I also really enjoyed the magical college aspect of this. The magic system is so cool, learning about the different affinities and being set in the college with all of her friends, them trying to figure out their affinities and all that stuff. And we end on a big cliffhanger of Spellcaster that is supposed to carry into this next book, but it just really doesn't. We don't really get the answers, I feel like, that we were looking for. It was hardly set in the college at all, so I didn't get that aspect. All of this like tension built up between the two characters was gone because they were immediately in love in this one. And then the third thing was that there was almost no conflict in this book. A problem would arise and then the next page the problem would be solved. It just felt like there was no real plot. Like, they were just kind of moving through life. Like, here's a problem, oh, we solved it. Here's another problem, oh, we solved it. And I was like, what is happening in this book? Ugh, I did not like it. And I just really don't know if it was my fault or not. I don't know. I don't know if it's me or not, but I didn't like it. Like, what is going on? Two major anticipated books for this year that I gave 3 stars to both. And yeah, really sad. Yeah, kind of rough. Moving on, I read The Royal Summer by Cass Morgan. This was really cute. It was a very short and like easy book. There was again nothing grand or epic about it, and it was kind of insta-lovey, but it was still just cute. It was a very charming main character. It was just an easy falling in love with the prince story, and I enjoyed it. This is about Hannah, who is supposed to be spending the summer in Scotland working for her favorite author. Hannah wants to become an author herself, and she got this opportunity to be this author's assistant. Something goes wrong and she loses that job, and so she's trying to find a way to stay in Scotland for the summer because she doesn't want to go back home. And she meets Prince Phineas, or is it no Finian, and she doesn't know that he's a prince, and so he offers her a job at the royal family's castle in Inveresk, and she realizes that he is actually the prince. And so she has this summer where she's working in the castle and kind of getting to know the other people who work there, falling in love with Finn, of course. And I think this would have been better if it had been a little longer, but I also feel like it was nice that it was short because it wasn't anything crazy special. I had a good time just reading it. I literally read this in like a day or two, and so it was nice to just get one checked off my list. So for the story, it probably would have been a little better if it had been longer, just to flesh out a few more of the plot lines, but for my reading experience, I was like, you know what, in and out, easy enough. Then I read Skin of the Sea by Natasha Bowen and really enjoyed this. I talked about this in my mermaid recommendations video, but I really enjoyed this one. This is a mermaid story about Simi-Deli, and this is all based off of West African mythology and folklore. It wasn't anything like the other mermaid books that I had read before. I liked it because of that fact, because it had to do a lot with the Orisha gods and goddesses, and then all of these different magical creatures that are in this West African folklore, and it was just so cool. I mentioned in that video that anytime a new creature or a new god was introduced, I would do a quick Google just to see who that god was, what their power was, and all that kind of stuff, and then also to look up a picture of them, and that was really helpful because I had never heard most of these words before. I was having trouble imagining it in my brain, and I'm also a very visual reader. I always say that it's basically like a movie playing in my head while I'm reading, and it's so hard to describe because obviously I have to be looking at the words on the page to be reading them, but it's almost like I'm not even seeing the words. I'm just seeing it visually in my brain. I feel like it's half and half. Some readers are, some readers aren't. I am definitely on the visual side, and so it was just really helpful for me to look up pictures of it to see what was going on. This is about Simi-Deli, and she is a Mami Wata, which is a mermaid created by this Orisha god Yamoja, the goddess of the ocean, and she helps bless the souls of those who die in the sea. And there is a boy that falls in the water that she is going to bless his journey, and then it turns out that he's not actually dead, so she saves him, and because she saves him, she breaks a code in the order of the world, and she has to go on this big quest to kind of remedy that, and it was just a really cool story. This is actually part of a duology. The next one is called Soul of the Deep, which I haven't read yet because I just read this one, but I definitely will. It was a really cool book, and I really enjoyed it. Alright, the next 4 books are ones that I read for my mermaid reading vlog, which is what you're gonna see after this video, and so I don't want to go into too much detail about it because you'll see a lot of me talking about these books in that video, so I'm just gonna quickly go through them and give you my ratings and then like just a few thoughts on them. The first one that I read for the video was Our Secret Summer by R.S. Gray. This was a 5-star. I loved this book. This is about a girl living in Ibiza for the summer. She falls in love. It was so funny. I kept saying that in that video that I just kept laughing out loud. I feel like it takes a lot for me to do that in a book. I'll definitely think a book is funny or I'll giggle, but this was actually making me laugh. If you need a new summer romance to read that's funny and just so cute, definitely read this one. Then I read We Would Never Tell. Really enjoyed this one too. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. We follow 3 girls who are at the Cannes Film Festival, and they're all trying to make it in Hollywood, but they haven't quite made it yet. And we know that there is someone who has been murdered and there is a diamond necklace missing, but we don't know who has been murdered and we don't know anything about this diamond necklace. And so the story jumps back and forth between the end of the festival and the beginning. You get all 3 girls' point of views. You also get this podcast element, and then you're also reading the police interviews, and so there are a lot of aspects to the story that made it just go by really fast, which is what I loved. I enjoyed the way she set up the story and the way she worked the mystery, and she gave you the background of the characters, and the girls were so crazy but they were so entertaining, so definitely recommend this one. And then I read The Wicked Sea and DNF'd it. I'm so sad. I could not get into this. The violence in this book was too much for me. I don't know. This was a me problem, not the book problem, because from what I only read about 60 pages, but from what I read, the magic system was really cool. The way that this world works is that there are 4 different seas. It's all about sirens, and the sirens from those 4 different seas have different powers, and so I think it would be really cool to explore that, but it was very graphic and gruesome, and it just wasn't what I was wanting in the moment, and so I DNF'd it. I might come back to it. I just couldn't force myself to read it because I was getting so grossed out. And then I read Voice of the Ocean by Kelsey and Peachy. I'm actually not fully finished with this. I will probably be finishing this tonight, which is why this video is going up before that video. I got set back on my timeline a little bit because I DNF'd this one. And then this was a pretty thick book. So as of right now, I'm still enjoying it. I feel like it's going to end up being about a 4-star. It's just a really sweet story. It really reminds me of The Little Mermaid, and the imagery in this book is amazing. How she describes the underwater castle and all these different aspects of it, I'm enjoying it. So can't give you a full rating yet because I'm not fully done with it, but as far as I know, I think it's gonna be a 4-star, and I'll probably be finishing it tonight. Those are all the books that I read this month. I will have, like I said, that mermaid reading vlog for you very soon. I just have to finish reading that book, and then I have to finish editing the video. I think it's gonna end up being a really fun video. I filmed a lot of it out by the pool because I got a lot of pool time this week, and so those are all the books that I read in June. I'm really excited for July. I have a ton of books on my summer TBR that I still haven't gotten to yet, so it's going to be a very summer book heavy month, which I'm excited for. Hopefully we'll get some more pool days. And yes, that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one very, very soon. Bye!